breaking news, folks. We have breaking news of potentially what might be our first look at the Nintendo Switch 2 system. Now, you would imagine we're getting to the finish line with this when it comes to, of course, the system being unveiled. Allegedly, we're seeing at least something before the end of March of 2025, and we've been seeing more and more accessories pop up for Nintendo Switch 2, but we've never actually seen an accessory being used on the Switch 2 itself until potentially now. I have some feelings about these pictures that are now floating around online that we're going to be taking a look at. Once again, I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber. I sometimes talk about this stuff because I know, there's some people out there that like it. So this write-up is being done by Nintendo Everything. I'll have a link to it in the description box down below if you want to read their write-up and see the pictures for yourself. I'm not sure why there was a K Jewelers ad. Pink. I'm not a fan of pink clothing. I don't own any pink clothing. Nintendo Switch 2 rumors have been hot and heavy as of late. Elaine Bennis has some things to say about that. But now, allegedly, we're getting once again, another look from China, take it or leave it, of a new silicone case for the Switch 2. As you can see here, Switch 2 silicone case. There's a couple different pictures up here about it, and basically some write-ups of different things emanating from it. So, of course, I want to take a look at the pictures themselves and kind of zoom in closer and see what we can see to see if there's anything here that is out of the ordinary. So obviously when you first look at this system, I mean, it looks like a Nintendo Switch system. Like, you could look at the bezel here and see that there is a bezel, but it is much smaller. So this is more akin to a Nintendo Switch OLED system. However, we do know that the Switch 2 is alleged to have the same screen size as the PlayStation Portal, so it will be a bit of a bigger screen. You can see that this is a baby blue hue, I guess it's baby blue, maybe a little Carolina blue, of a silicone case going over the Switch itself. We have a look at the back of the Switch 2, alleged. We're looking at the wider kickstand, which is something that, of course, we got with the Switch OLED. So upon first inspection, this does kind of look like a Switch OLED with just a silicone case on it. But if you look at the back here, things get a little bit interesting, like the way these buttons are positioned. Like, obviously this is a trigger button and this is another trigger button, kind of in an auspicious position. What is this little ridge right here? What's going on with that? That is indeed a little bit different than what we have now. All right, so scrolling down here, we have Joy-Cons detached from the Nintendo Switch 2 system. And I think there's some interesting things here. This little protruding thing is something that we've seen in other alleged pictures. Now, I'm not saying that that is necessarily going to be the case with this system, but to see it pop up multiple times, it does become a bit interesting. But what's even more interesting is taking a look at the side of the Switch itself. Because when you look at the sides here, there is no rail system like we have right now. The rail is completely non-existent. There's just a hole here that has been seemingly cut out, which allegedly kind of plays into the fact that this system is going to have a magnetic Joy-Con system to it. Now, I do find it interesting that there is no rail system with this, because that would negate the use of your standard Joy-Cons unless you are in tabletop mode like we've seen here. You can't just slide your Joy-Cons into the system like we have it now. So we do know that there's backwards compatibility with the Nintendo Switch 2 system, but if you're not able to use your standard Joy-Cons in handheld mode, like, that's kind of interesting. It would kind of negate a lot of the use of the Joy-Cons if you can only do it where you hold it off to the side and use it as a little, stinky controller that you give to like your little cousin or something like that, because he doesn't know what's going on anyways. And if he did, you wouldn't want to have a good controller because you want to beat him. But I do find this interesting. This design is very, very interesting. And then we have a look at the top and bottom of these systems. And you can notice here that there's two plugs. So that's a little bit interesting here. You have your ventilation here, you have your power button, your volume controls, your game card, and then once again, we have these weird triggers, because you could see here, like, this is your first trigger, this is your second trigger, but what is this? what is it? Is it a third button? We now have a third trigger on this system. Once again, a look at the wide kickstand. And then you actually got a glimpse of the shell case, the silicone case without the system in it, which I would have been interested to see, but obviously we're not going to get a look to see that sort of thing. So there's a lot of things that I find very interesting with this design. And I find it interesting because it does line up with other sort of ways that we've seen this system. But there are a few things that kind of strike me as a bit odd. Let me get out of this and have it so I can zoom in at my own leisure. So we got a 500% zoom here. And when you look at the buttons, like look at that A. Look at the A. It's not centered, like at all. And that almost makes me a little bit hesitant that this could just be an AI mockup, because when you see here, the A looks all right, but then it looks a little crusty around the sides. And you know, seeing these additional triggers and stuff like that, like I find that absolutely fascinating. We've seen some weird things come out recently about, you know, it's going to have like a way where the controls feel different on different surfaces, and it like actually plays into the system. Whether or not that is a reality or not, you know, that will remain to be seen. But then, you know, when you see things like two different, you know, plugs here, you know, when you charge or switch, you're using the same plug that you would use at the bottom of a dock, but now you have a plug on top. It's a very interesting design. Am I willing to say that this is 100% the first look at the system? No, because I don't know, that A button, like why is it protruding at the bottom here? And this may be sort of nitpicky, but in the same breath, it's like you have to look at things like this with the way that AI has been spurned on, and how, you know, things are absolutely crazy where people can't even decipher what's a real picture and what's not. Like, you have to question these sorts of things. It's a good looking mock-up though. You know, it's a good looking mock-up if at the end of the day it only is just a mock-up. Like I think, you know, it's pretty convincing, but I don't know. I'm definitely not willing to sign off on it 100%. But in the same breath, I guess I wouldn't be super surprised if this is how the system looks, because you got that weird freaking button there, man. What's up with the button? What does it do? Are these magnetic? Like, look at this. I know it might have been harder to see when it was small, but you could clearly see, like, there's a shell casing there and a shell casing there. So this is just sliding right in with magnets, I guess. How do they work? We'll have to ask my Juggalo viewers in the comments section down below. But let me know what you think of this, man. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is the real deal, the real McCoy, or do you think it's just another assumed thing coming from China where, you know, I guess what makes this a little bit different to me is a lot of different websites are talking about this. So that kind of leads me to believe that maybe they believe this more so than a lot of the other things we've seen. I'm not 100% sure, but hey, it could end up being real. And do you think this is enough of a deviation from the original Switch design? Do you think people could potentially get confused a Wii to Wii U situation? Let me know in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to check out the video from earlier today where I talk about why we are in the golden era of retro video gaming. There's a lot of things I wanted to say about that. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.